mean, you can throw women's sports into that too. There has been a huge media rights increase for women's basketball, but there are still many executives that say, look, we think that this thing is a buy low candidate.
Alex, I love that. Was almost like Austin Powers, Mike Myers, $4 million.
Yeah, that's right. I tried. I should have
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. F1 is one thing. There's another thing you spoke to Eddie Q about, which was the broader world of sports rights that are taking place at this moment.
Yeah. So, you know, to some degree, I think it's a little bit antithetical that when you look at Apple sports rights and you see Major League Soccer, Formula One, and a little bit of Major League Baseball, that is not a dominant sports rights portfolio. And you think of Apple as the biggest, the best in everything. And look, they're not always the first, to be fair. They weren't the first phone, but ultimately they come out as this dominant player. And yet their stated sports strategy is one where they want all the rights they can get for a sport. In other words, every F1 race is going to be on Apple. Every major in the United States, every Major League Soccer game is on Apple already globally. Well, that's not going to happen for the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball. Those leagues like to carve up their rights. And so here's what Eddie Q told me about why he's content still investing in sports, even in that world.
Order submitted.
We can do the kinds of things that we want to do. Yes, the answer is yes, we do. If we can offer things that are unique and special that lets us really do the level of differentiation, innovation that we would like to do, then the answer is yes. But these things are, they're complicated.
So basically what he's counting on is the leagues at some point coming around to Apple's vision. Now, we already know definitionally that's not going to happen anytime soon because the major rights are locked up for many years to come. But at the very end of our interview, Eddie Q said to me, look, we're Apple. We're going to be around for a long time. I think it was a little dig at some of the traditional media companies that may not be on a solid footing. And his bet is that ultimately, if it's 10, 15, 20 years from now, the leagues are going to clue into Apple's vision that it makes more sense to sell all of your rights to one platform than to carve them up to 4 or 5 different streaming services.
Alex, let me ask you a different question, which is, and maybe this is going to feel like a curveball of sorts, in terms of what you think Apple's ultimate ambition is with Apple TV. And it comes, I mean, the question comes at a time when clearly Paramount has ambitions to merge, for example, with Warner Brothers, and whether you think Apple might either get involved in that or try to beef up its own content offerings by trying to make some kind of deal with others.
Yeah, you know, this has sort of been a long-running joke. Before I covered media and sports, I covered mergers and acquisitions, and people used to always ask me, do you think Apple's going to buy a company? And I was like, oh, you asked me the Apple question. Well, I have a formula for that. My formula is, will Apple buy X? Arrow? No. Because Apple just doesn't buy anything. I mean, I think Apple's biggest acquisition still is a $3 billion acquisition of Beats that it did a decade ago, in terms of a full company at least. Right. So I don't think Apple will buy Warner Brothers Discovery. They've never shown any interest in buying any sort of legacy media asset. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think their ambitions are just the same kind of as sports. We're going to be around for a while. We'll take this thing slow. And in 10 or 15 or 20 years, we will emerge as this really robust business. But it's going to take a long time for us to accumulate the library and accumulate the sports rights to make us a dominant player in the media industry.
Fair enough. Alex, I want to thank you for bringing us that interview. Fascinating. And be sure to sign up for his CNBC Sport newsletter. And he'll be sharing his full conversation with Eddie Q there in next week's edition.
All right, we have much more to come still this morning on Squawk Box, including the latest on the government shutdown. We're going to be speaking with House Speaker Mike Johnson. That is coming at 8:10 a.m. Eastern time. Also, we'll be talking with Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. That interview's at 8:40 a.m. Eastern time. Stick around. Squawk Box will be right back.
I can't wait to see their faces when we go out.
What seems to be the problem, soldier?
The
Rarely, sir. It's full of Greeks.
Sneaky cowards.
Innovation changes everything.
Send it back!
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing carefully, read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Silver is at a 10-year high. Kootenai Silver boasts one of the largest resources owned by a junior company. With the new high-grade discovery in Mexico, the potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Kootenai Silver.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life
Order
insurance
submitted.
to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
You're up right now, still scrolling, still streaming. Stop. With AGZ, designed to support your body's natural sleep cycle. It's the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. Go to sleep.
CNBC's Changemakers 2026 list, spotlighting women who innovate, lead boldly, and are transforming business. Do you know someone who is rewriting the future? Nominate them now at cnbc.com/changemaker.
I'm an agent with Alphafutures Insurance.
Captive agent here.
We're locally focused and community driven, here to support small businesses with flexible, customized coverage.
We have smaller risk appetites for that sort of thing.
Call Alphafutures Insurance and save today.
Once a lion, always a lion. Once you bleed blue, you always bleed blue. And on game days, Samsung TVs are your gateway to glory because they go big without sacrificing detail. And glare? Not in this house. Because when every play matters, every pixel matters. Go big without the blur on the ultimate fan-worthy TVs.
Order submitted.
Welcome back to Squawk Box, everybody. The markets this morning are in the green. Dow futures up by close to 150 points. NASDAQ's up by 160, and now the S&P is indicated up by about 33 points. Treasury yields have been a little bit weaker today. The 10 years at 403, the 2 years at 350. And then oil prices still well below $60 a barrel. Right now you've got WTI at $58.85 a barrel. Gold prices at new highs once again, $4,262 an ounce. And then Bitcoin was right around $111,000 last we checked, still there.
South Korea's Kospi index hit a record high overnight after the IMF raised its growth projection for the global economy. That's part of it, citing the ability of the private sector and trade deals with U.S. and other countries. Yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC that Washington was about to finish up trade negotiations with South Korea. Among the big gainers overnight, automakers Hyundai and Kia. Samsung Electronics, by the way, rose 2.3%.
Order submitted.
Also to an all-time high.
When we come back, President Trump says that the U.S. and China are in a trade war. One of the key issues, Beijing's move to curb exports of rare earth minerals. We're going to be hearing from a CEO on the front lines of the rare earth supply chain right after this. Right now, though, as we head to a break, check out some of the rare earth miners today. Critical metals is up by 8.5%. It's the best performer. Squawk Box will be right back.
High Point University, the premier life skills university, is ranked the #1 best-run college in America by the Princeton Review. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation. Students love unprecedented access to global leaders on High Point's inspiring campus. and parents appreciate HPU's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
Every morning, even before the markets open, I'm planning my moves that I make throughout the day. When you're actively trading, the fees really start to add up, and that eats directly into your potential returns. I found that Public is really the only platform that offers rebates on your option trades, which help offset those costs. For me, when it comes to investing, timing is everything, and Public allows me to get a step ahead.
CIDP is no walk in the park.
That's true.
But I take VivGuard Hytrulo self-injection.
Same. It's the first major innovation in CIDP treatment in over 30 years.
And while I still have CIDP,
I have a chance to
live vividly. VivGuard Hytrulo has been proven to significantly reduce the risk of symptoms getting worse.
And I can treat my CIDP with a once-weekly injection in about 30 seconds.
Do not use VivGuard Hytrulo if you're allergic to its ingredients. It may increase infection risk and cause serious allergic or infusion or injection-related reactions. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, fever, recent or planned vaccinations, allergy history, or kidney problems. The most common side effects include respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions.
I'm hitting fairways with the fellas.
I'm hitting the road with my number one. That's how we live vividly with VivGuard Hytrulo.
Ask your neurologist about VivGuard Hytrulo for self-injection.
You okay in there? Consumer Cellular knows there are a lot of offers flying around, but they slip away too fast. We don't play games. What you see is what you get. No hot air, just plans starting at $20. Bet you're glad you wore cargo pants. Because cargo pants have all those pockets. You can see how we can cut your bill. Plans start at just $20. Call Consumer Cellular.
Introducing CNBC Plus.
You can stream Squawk Box.
Stream Squawk on the street.
If you can't catch fast money in real time, watch us later on CNBC Plus.
Look at that. It's kind of good. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Order submitted.
Treasury Secretary Scott
Order
Bessent
canceled.
and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer are blasting China's move to curb exports of rare earth minerals, calling that action a threat to the global supply chain. Joining us right now for the latest is Michael Silver, the CEO and chairman of American Elements.
Order
that is a
filled.
private U.S.-based company that distributes advanced materials, including rare earths. And Michael, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do.
Order
you're
submitted.
not somebody who's actually mining for these rare earths. You are someone who is a distributor. What has the global supply chain looked like over the last recent months? What's been more difficult?
Well, we're actually manufacturers. One of the sales guys in the company said we have 1 foot in the mine and 1 foot in the cell phone. So we're processing what comes out of the mine to produce the materials that the company can use to make things. And this process actually on the export licenses began on April 4th. They restricted 7 of the rare earth materials.
Order
they
submitted.
just added another 5 about a week ago. And it's very different from the past because what they're doing now is restricting just the rare earths. There's a handful of them that are critical to both commercial technology as well as military technology that really account for no more than 1% of a rare earth deposit. The bulk of rare earths, cerium, lanthanum, neodymium, that make up to 90% of a deposit are unrestricted. So this is kind of unique, and it may reflect a desire to hold on to these materials themselves over the long term. And it's going to create some issues, I think, for the U.S. government. Yes.
I mean, on the one hand, it looks like they are doing this because they're trying to put pressure on the Trump administration for tariffs or for restrictions of semiconductor chips. On the other hand, if this stuff is that rare and we had a hold of it, would we be willing to share it either?
Exactly. Well, and their military applications. So you can imagine, Deng Xiaoping said decades ago, the Middle East has oil, we have rare earths. They view it as a national treasure. And the thought of somebody using their rare earths to cause them, defense issues and military issues, you can understand where they're coming from. I appreciate it. But there's a lot of things they can do, and they've done many, many very clever things in the past. And the one that we're concerned about, at least from the U.S. government standpoint, is they reduce the price of cerium and lanthanum and neodymium and praseodymium, which is the bulk of the rare earth deposit, to a very, very low number. And then they maybe even discontinue selling things like dysprosium and terbium, the ones that are used that are very rare and are used in military applications. Because the result of that is all these new mines that are trying to be funded right now, you've got some of them listed on your screen, are going to have some real difficulties because they're going to be operating in a negative. Right. Even Mountain Pass, an old mine, may find itself in the negative. And that would require U.S. government subsidy to maintain that mine in operation.
That's devious.
Well, it is, but it's the reality of a national defense system. Michael, you've met with the Trump administration. What have you told them?
This came up, this potential issue. We did an advisory letter to it's a confidential letter we do to our customers, where we advise them of this concern. And I think the government has to be prepared to be in a position to subsidize the Mountain Pass mine in order to get the terbium and dysprosium and scandium and yttrium, these ones that are essential for military technology, for guidance systems, for lasers, many of the technologies, and they are the rare earths. And China may just decide not to sell them at all in order to maintain their own, military footing.
We had a guest yesterday who said that part of the problem is for the heavy rare earths, we just don't have them geologically in the United States. For the rare earths that you're talking about, do we have deposits of them?
Those are sometimes they're referred to as the heavies. See, what China has is they have two deposits. They have the bastnaesite ore in the north, which is more typical. It's very similar to what we have at Mountain Pass. But then they've got these ionic clays in the south that are loaded up with the heavies, and we don't have those ionic clays. So they're in a very, very good position on the heavies. However, Mountain Pass produces heavies. Mount Weld, which is Linus's mine in Australia, produces some heavies. And if you just apply those to military applications, which I think is what the government's going to eventually do, there's sufficient volume in the United States to support a military application. But again, what could happen is that cerium and lanthanum and neodymium could go down to a very low number, and Mountain Pass won't be able to operate profitably. And the new mines that everyone's trying to fund right now, they will definitely not be able to open profitably if they do this. So
I'm just trying to figure out what this means. If you think that there is enough there for our defense capabilities, what other applications are going to get shut out? What companies are going to get shut out? What's the fallout?
Well, it's going to have an impact on electric cars because there's dysprosium in the neodymium iron boron magnet, which is it's critical to electric cars. Laser technology. There's going to be quite a lot of commercial technology that's going to be burdened by this.
Meaning that EV growth is going to be even harder than we already are learning?
Correct. It depends. Again, this is just something you try to project what could happen. And China's done some very, very clever, I won't go to all the historical things since 2008. They've done some extremely clever things with pricing. Occasionally they raise them up because they want something to happen. Sometimes they drop them next to nothing. There was one time when what they did was they made them extremely low in China and higher outside of China in order to encourage companies like General Electric to move their plants to China. And that was the WTO action in 2012 that they lost because they had this price differential and the WTO said, you can't do that. So they've used a lot of methods, and you got to anticipate creativity on their part.
Wasn't it that they were dumping rare earth metals back in 2002 that caused the Mountain Pass mine to shut down to begin with?
Well, dumping, they just drop the prices. They don't have to dump.
That's right.
They have a
That's what I mean.
monopoly.
Dropping prices so much that it no longer makes it commercially viable in a capitalist system.
When you have 50% of a deposit in your boundary, because that's just the way plate tectonics happen to work out for you, you have control over the pricing on that material. If your prices go to the moon, everyone's going to follow, right? Shareholders would have an uproar if they didn't follow. If they go down below your cost structure, you better find a way to get there. So they completely control pricing.
Does this entire industry need to be nationalized? Your shop included?
I would say, like I said, we've got some deposits in Wyoming that should be mined. They're excellent deposits. We have Alaska,
Order filled.
site. Who knows where Greenland's going to go? I think those have to be treated as national priorities, and there will be government involvement, some government subsidies. In essence, Mountain Pass has been nationalized because the U.S. government now owns a majority share in it.
Order submitted.
So I think there's a trend towards sovereign control over these materials, but I don't know if the mines will actually be national.
Order filled.
Okay. Michael, thank you. Hopefully you'll come back and talk to us again soon.
Order submitted.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
As usual, plenty of finger pointing on Capitol Hill. No end, though, in sight yet for the government shutdown. Coming up, we're going to speak to House Speaker Mike Johnson. He'll join us in not quite a half hour from now at 8:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Squawk Box. Come back in just a moment.
In a world of conformity, it's often the innovative that stand out. At FlexJet, we've built a state-of-the-art operations control center with an international fleet of private jets and helicopters. Our Red Label crews are leading the way in pilot compensation, all supported by one of the world's largest maintenance networks. This is our timeless dedication to you. That's why we're outgrowing the competition 2-1. At FlexJet, you won't just be flown, you'll be moved.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
Terrible. Politics seeps into everything.
What do you mean? Talk about climate change or the economy or, of course, elections.
You can't find out what we should really expect to happen.
But of course you can.
Go to IBKR's Forecast Trader.
Put your money where your mouth is.
I know what you're thinking. Here's Kristen Bell on a luxurious vacation with her pretend kids. But I'm really here for all the points I get with my City Strata Elite card. I live for a fancy dinner where I don't have any idea what I'm eating. But what I really love, 6 times the points. Just eat your points, sweetie. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. And slightly more than all the points I'm earning.
City Strata Elite. Rewards where it counts. That's the point.
There are times in life you wish you had a do-over. A chance to warp back in time to change your fate. Back to before you made the wrong choice. If you're in a wreck, make the smart choice right away. Frankel & Frankel. Chosen by the people, feared by the insurance companies. Call Frankel first.
Third quarter results just out from Charles Schwab. Adjusted earnings came in at $1.31. That was 6 cents above estimates. Revenue was up by 27% to $6.1 billion, and that beat estimates of $6 billion. Total client assets grew to $11.6 trillion, and Schwab added 1.1 million new accounts during the quarter. Check it out, that stock is up by close to 2.2% this morning. In terms of the daily average trading volume, it was up 30% versus the third quarter of 2024, 7.4 million. And by the way, for the entire first 9 months of the year, I guess, they have had daily average revenue trades for above $7 million. So that's been something to watch, too. We've got the CEO, Rick Wurster, who will be joining us tomorrow in the 8 o'clock hour. That is first on CNBC.
Schwab.
Schwab.
No, it's Schwab. Carl.
Oh, and from the commercials, yes.
Schwab.
There you go. Coming up, HPE CEO Antonio Neri. He's going to be speaking to analysts, and he yesterday provided some weak guidance. The stock taking a hit this morning. We're going to get to talk to him right here on Squawk Box in an exclusive interview. That's next. And as we head to a break, check out some of the mega cap stocks this morning. Squawk Box returning after this.
We finally made it. Now let's go get that gold.
I got a better idea.
The best investors see the bigger picture. That's why today, Blackstone is investing in the picks and shovels of tomorrow, like data centers and energy solutions.
We're gonna need more shovels!
Delivering proven performance for 40 years. Blackstone.
Rather than get rich quick, I believe in get rich slow. The high yield cash account at Public actually had higher rates than anything else I was able to find online. I don't want to be losing sleep over having made risky investments. I needed something stable that could really give me long-term financial benefits. I know my money's working hard for me, and I know I can access it anytime I need it.
What if you could invest in a future where skin cancer treatment is non-invasive and relatively painless? Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly to the tumor site, offering a mostly painless alternative to invasive surgeries. With the skin cancer treatment market expected to exceed $20 billion by 2030, Medicus is poised to meet the demand for cost-effective, non-surgical options. Now advancing Phase 2 studies. Medicus Pharma, leading the charge in skin cancer innovation.
What if the future of finance wasn't built around averages, but around you? At Abacus Global Management, we're reframing the very nature of financial planning around the most personal data point possible, your lifespan. Because Abacus is the originator, the market maker. We're not just participating in the space, we're reshaping it. As a technology-driven asset manager, we're empowering our investors with an integrated system to take command of what matters most. Your time, your future, your financial destiny. While legacy firms cling to static models and outdated assumptions, we move forward with precision, agility, and a vision rooted in reality, your reality. This isn't finance as usual. This is control in the hands of those who dare to lead. This is a new era of investing built on the truth of your life. Welcome to Abacus Global Management.
The NBA tips off a new era on NBC and Peacock. Rockets, Thunder, Warriors, Lakers. NBA tip-off Tuesday on NBC and streaming on Peacock.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. HPE shares, they are down sharply this morning. The company issuing lower guidance for the next fiscal year during an analyst meeting yesterday. HPE outlining its strategy to shift business to what it's calling higher growth and higher margin areas with a focus on opportunities in cloud and artificial intelligence. Joining us right now in an exclusive interview is HPE's CEO, Antonio Neri, and we're thrilled to have you here. And I said during the commercial break, thanks for coming in, even though it's a complicated morning, given that the stock is down, and you looked at me as if nothing's complicated. So tell me why.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. You know, the security analyst meeting is always to lay the long-term strategy. And when I think about that strategy as a compelling investment opportunity, we guided very strongly on our earnings per share and free cash flow. In fact, most of that free cash flow will go back to shareholders.
Right.
And what I think that the street still needs to spend a little time about our 2026 guide, because the 2026 guide was a pro forma guide. What that means that we reset the baseline based on the fact that we only included 4 months of Juniper in our 2025 results. And so we wanted to be very transparent of the fact that the growth rate will be in that high single digits. But when you look at it at a reported basis, it will be between 17 and 23%.
So when you talk to investors and you see the stock moving the way it is, do you think that's just a misunderstanding of where things are in terms of the explanation of the situation, or do you think it's that they were expecting a higher growth rate? They don't like the buybacks. I mean, a lot of shareholders do like buybacks typically, but there's always a question about where you're spending your cash, either investing in the business itself, giving it back. Right. How are you thinking? So
we committed to generate above $3.5 billion of free cash flow by 2028, and that's a combination of operating profit expansion, which is going to grow between 11 and 17% over the next 3 years, and obviously paying down the debt on the Juniper transaction. And so as we do that, by the end of fiscal year 27, in 28, you're going to see significant capital returns. And yesterday, we also announced a 10% increase in our dividends. So more than 75% of the cash by 28 will be given back to shareholders. I think the reaction so far this morning is more about the 26 guide, which again, we guided on a pro forma basis. So our revenue, again, I reported, you're going to see is going to grow between 17 and 23%, which is very high, obviously. And we're going to expand our operating profit between 10 and 18%. And so I think the investors need to go through the numbers. And today I'm going to do my runs with investors, and hopefully they will understand.
When you look at that chart, what do you think? I mean, it's sort of an interesting, I'm just looking at it. I know I'm sure you tell your employees not to look at that chart.
Yeah.
But, here you were down near, what, $12 just, 6 months ago maybe at this point. Maybe a little longer than that.
Yeah.
But you look before that, you're now higher than where you were before, but it's been a sort of a little bit of a wild ride.
Yeah. Well, part, Andrew, is because obviously we were delayed on the closing of the Juniper transaction. Right. The Juniper transaction was held back through the filing of the case, and we go through that and we closed the transaction. And so that brought the stock back where it needs to be. Right. But remind myself and everybody that, as we go forward, more than 60% of the operating profit is going to come from the networking business. So our strategy is around 3 pillars: networking, cloud, and AI. And this company is going to play a big role in the networking for AI, and then ultimately play in AI when it makes sense.
Speak to that. Everybody wants to say they're in the AI business, but in terms of how it's going to be connected.
Well, if you think about the AI explosion we see today, today has been mostly driven by the model builders and the hyperscalers and this massive amount of CapEx investments. Enterprises are now growing very fast, and interesting enough, the sovereign and neoclouds are growing. So our strategy is to compete in the neoclouds and the sovereign space and enterprise. And in the service provider space, we're going to lead with networking, because you need the fabric to really ramp this amount of GPUs. And networking is going to play a big role in that technology stack. And then obviously we have amazing supercomputing and AI at scale that today we already installed all over the world with unique technologies that direct liquid cooling, which is going to play a bigger role.
Hey, Antonio, you are increasing your annual dividend by 10%. You're buying back an additional $3 billion of shares. Is that right?
That's correct. So yesterday,
I guess there would be some questions as to how much you give back to shareholders and how much you invest on these big businesses that you're talking about.
So, we increased the authorization to buy shares by $3 billion. So now the authorization from our board is to buy $3.7 billion. We're going to use that authorization over time as we pay down the debt. Over the next 2 years, we're going to pay $4 billion of debt to return to the 2 times EBITDA leverage. We believe that the 2 times EBITDA leverage is the right leverage for the company, considering the expansion of profit we're going to drive. And then from an investment perspective, we have now an amazing portfolio. So we will continue to invest organically in the business through the traditional cycles. And then ultimately, we believe the working capital for AI is obviously one that you have to stay very disciplined about it. And that's why the focus on sovereign enterprise is essential. We're more than 50% of our orders already there. And then in the service providers and the model builders, play the balance between working capital and profitability. And in that business, the margins are very low.
Everybody else is being very careful.
Yeah, but it's, but there are other mechanisms.
Yeah, no, but people are, assuming it's going to be the greatest thing ever and just throwing caution to the wind. So you're being very prudent about it.
I am very prudent. Look, I'm in the business to generate cash, not to burn cash. And
that's a good concept.
Yes, that's how I grew up. But ultimately, you need to be in that space in order to drive the scale to participate in the other segments.
So why do you think the stock's down?
I think it's the 2026 guide, Becky. I think, if you look at the 3 years, we actually exceeded what was out there for a 3 years basis. We got it over $3 per share and $3.5 billion of free cash flow. So that was above the expectations. I think it's the short reaction, which is interesting. Security analyst meeting should be about the 3 years, not the next year guide. But I get that. But again, if you look at the numbers, we were very transparent in saying, look, this is on a year-over-year basis. You look at the report, it is actually much higher.
Are you suggesting that the guidance you're giving now is cautious? Is that what you're saying, or no?
There are areas where we have been prudent, particularly on the growth in networking, because we're going to drive the first-year integration. That's no question about it. But we expect to gain share in areas like campus and branch, security in the networking space, and as well as the routing business. And data center, it's going to be more lumpy because to play in this AI space, you have to win the reference footprint. And just one deal can change 2 to 3 percentage points of growth in the year.
You're stuck. Wow, I mean, it made the round trip on the tariff fears.
Right.
Yeah.
It did, but I was going to go to a different place. Where are you on this sort of, and we talk about a bubble all the time. Are we in one? Are we in a boom? What is this to you? And then how do you see the valuation of your company in the context of all of these other companies and looking at some of their multiples and your own multiple?
Well, I will start with the latter. I think our company valuation.
This company's cheap.
It's cheap. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know how I knew you were going to say that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, I mean, it's just pure math, right? If you think about the math for a second, when 60% of your profit comes from a business that have high structural margins, the multiple of that business is much higher than the multiple we have today. So that's point number one. And number two, on your first question, we're still in the boom area. I mean, I think that's very clear. But over time, we're going to see a normalization of that. Right. And I think, spending the right time in the segments where you're going to want to have a bigger footprint, like enterprise, ultimately, like CNBC, right? Is using AI to help your jobs. So that's where I think the value is going to come from.
Yeah. Antonio, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
It is 8 a.m. on the East Coast, and you're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And among today's top stories, President Trump says that the United States and China are currently in a trade war. The president making that comment after the markets closed yesterday. But before that, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent suggesting another temporary trade truce with Beijing is possible. A federal judge temporarily blocking the Trump administration from firing federal workers during the government shutdown. And President Trump says he might go to the Supreme Court next month to hear oral arguments in that tariff case that could determine the fate of his trade agenda. It's believed that he would be the first sitting U.S. president to attend Supreme Court arguments.
Well, let's check the futures this morning. Been strong, triple-digit gains in the Dow and NASDAQ for the whole pre-market session. Take a look at Treasuries. It's been static at about 4.02 on the 10-year. Let's get to Dom Chu with a look at this morning's pre-market movers. Hey, Dom.
Hi, good morning, Joe, Andrew, Becky. So we're going to kick things off with a check on shares of Travelers right now, which are moving lower in the pre-market to the tune of 5%, despite the insurance giant and Dow component reporting a big profit beat earlier this morning. Revenues, though, did fall shy of expectations, which is one factor dragging that stock lower. The profit sides were helped along by stronger underwriting activity and fewer disaster-related claims losses. So Traveler shares, Dow component, big kind of drag so far, despite that triple-digit gain we're seeing for the Dow futures. BNY Mellon shares also kind of moving to the downside here to the tune of 0.5%, despite reporting a beat across the board earlier this morning. The bank's beat was largely driven by fee revenue, which increased 7% year on year, falling slightly from the second quarter. Net interest income also improved by 18% year over year. So BNY Mellon, big custody bank, now moving just about flat in the pre-market. We'll round things out on the tech side with Taiwan Semiconductor. Those shares are higher by 2% after posting a beat across the board for its third quarter. The company, which produces wafers for AI chips, saw its most advanced chips account for 74% of that revenue in the quarter. Its CEO said on the earnings call that recent developments in the AI market continue to be very positive. So Taiwan Semi, big fab foundry type business, moving to the upside. Joe, I'll send things back over to you guys.
Okay, Dom. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Food giant Nestle saying it's going to cut 16,000 jobs. That includes 12,000 white-collar positions and another 4,000 roles. This is over the next 2 years. For the third quarter, Nestle posting a better-than-expected organic growth rate of 4.3%. It also raised its target for cost savings to 3 billion Swiss francs by the end of 2027, that is, up from $2.5 billion. And then there's this news. Chobani has reportedly raised $650 million in a new funding round, valuing that company at $20 billion. Dealbook reporting that the yogurt maker expects to have $3.8 billion in net sales this year. That's a 28% increase from 2024, and it expects pre-tax earnings to rise by 53% year over year. And so much of the growth in that business is coming outside of yogurt, interestingly. I know we always think about Chobani as a yogurt company, but a lot of this is about really expanding it. I mean, this is going to be a juggernaut. Remember, there was a period of time where this company was going to go public. It is not. It's managed to do all of this as a private institution, which is unbelievable.
I think yogurt producer is a better, because the bacteria make the yogurt or something. They don't really make the yogurt. You can't really manufacture it. You can produce it, right? Like only God can make corn. Would you call a corn syrup company a corn maker? Not really. Corn syrup producer. You see what I'm saying? I think it's more exact.
This is a semantics situation. What are
you? You think I'm anti-semantic or something?
No.
Microsoft is reportedly hoping to produce most of its new products outside China as early as next year. A report from Nikkei Asia says the tech giant has contacted suppliers about shifting production for its Surface laptop computers and data center servers. The report also notes that Amazon Web Services is ramping up production outside China. And J.B. Hunt shares are sharply higher. The transportation services company reported earnings of $1.76 a share, beating estimates of $1.46, probably helping the transportation average. Revenue was roughly flat. Look at that, 14% gain. Big surprise. J.B. Hunt said efficiency in its truck, rail, intermodal business improved. That led to a 12% increase in operating income as of yesterday's close. The stock had been down with some of the weakness in the transports, about 19% this year, but getting some of that back, fair amount back today.
Meantime, Salesforce shares, they are higher. The company issued new long-term guidance of more than $60 billion in revenue in 2030. That tops analyst estimates of $58.4 billion. At the company's annual conference, the CFO saying they have had lower stage growth for a while, but that is re-accelerating. She expects year-over-year organic revenue growth above 10% in each of the next 4 years. And you're looking at that stock move. As of yesterday's close, Salesforce was down about 29% year to date, but the improvement right there powering the Dow as well. Of course, it is a Dow component.
All right, coming up, day 16 of the government shutdown, no end in sight. House Speaker Mike Johnson is going to be our special guest as the blame game on Capitol Hill continues. Squawk Box returns in just a moment.
Only ServiceNow connects every corner of your business so people can do all their work on one platform.
No more mindless swivel chairing between platforms.
Or swivel chairing between apps.
No more swivel chairing.
I don't feel so good.
What did you do here again?
Mostly that kind of stuff.
Will you push me back?
No.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can simply arrive or make an entrance. Stick to the agenda or experience something unexpected. With IHG's 20 hotel brands, you can guest how you guest.
Behind this couple's financial future is their advisor, who's building a portfolio designed to meet all their needs. And behind their advisor are Vanguard's institutional quality bond funds, powered by a deep bench of experts who have consistently delivered year after year. Fact is, 90% of Vanguard's active bond funds outperformed their peers over the last 10 years.
can get behind that.
Are you backed by institutional quality bond funds? Vanguard, discipline that delivers.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Welcome to the Now Way to Network. They switched to Juniper's AI native network. And now everyone's so productive, they're operating at a higher gear. That's the Now Way to Network at work, with real AI, putting you in the fast lane.
Every day, I'm checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and all of the details that you need to make money.
Closing bell overtime for Easter and streaming on CNBC+.
I stand alone with fire inside, with passion burning in my veins.
On game days, Samsung TVs are your gateway to glory because they go big while sweating every detail. And glare? Not in this house. Go big without the blur on the ultimate fan-worthy TVs.
The new Monster menu is now at Burger King.
Really?
Frightfully fun for all families. Sink your teeth into the new Monster menu at BK.
You rule.
Order filled.
Government shutdown now in its third week. Joining us, House Speaker Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, thanks for coming on this morning.
Glad to be with you, as always.
It's good to see you. You know, you've done your job. I know you got a lot of opinions and comments and everything else, but this is like really not your problem. I guess it is. It's all our problem. But you sent over a bill to the Senate, and that's where Senate Democrats are not giving it the go-ahead to reopen the government.
It really is as simple as that. I mean, we passed the bill here September 19th. We did the work. We sent it over in bipartisan fashion, by the way. We did have one Democrat who had common sense enough to not shut the government down. We sent the bill over to the Senate, and now they have spiked it 9 times, okay? They've had 9 votes now, 44 Democrats over there voting down the bill, and they're exacting now real pain for real. I mean, the troops are getting paid, thankfully, because President Trump heroically stepped into the fray here, and they found a way to reallocate some funding to make sure that active duty service members got their pay yesterday on schedule. But that's a temporary fix. And all of these other programs and services, I mean, health services for veterans and, you know, nutrition programs for young pregnant women and, you know, all the things that the government does for the American people are suspended right now. Half the civilian workforce is on furlough. And we're in dire straits. And every week of a shutdown, we surrender $15 billion in gross domestic product. I mean, this is real cost for real people. They're playing political games, and it absolutely has to end. It has to end.
Mr. Speaker, we're going to have Senator Kelly on a little bit later. And I saw him yesterday saying the way that to end this, it can be ended by President Trump, I guess, giving assurances that those subsidies would be extended. I don't know whether that would be enough. I mean, Chuck Schumer, it's a $1.5 trillion wish list of stuff that he's still insisting on. Here's what's worrisome to a lot of people. If something like that were to happen, and the president did say, okay, we're going to get a deal, if it's done without any reform of Obamacare, just extending these subsidies, because it's not the Affordable Care Act, it's the unaffordable Care Act, and something needs to be done for reforms. If you just did a clean extension, you might lose some of your people on the House side, and you might need Democrats to get it passed in the House, which would threaten your speakership. So you're between a rock and a hard place at this point.
Well, this is not about me. It's about the American people. Let's make something very clear. Let me predict let me predict what Senator Kelly is going to say on the show. He's going to give you a long, impassioned speech about health care and how the subsidies are so important to make sure that people don't die and all of this. Let me tell you something. This is not a health care fight. This is a very simple funding fight. It always was. They have created a red herring. The subsidies don't expire until the end of the year. We were always planning to have the thoughtful debate and deliberation over that in the month of October and November before the subsidies expired. They know that. They grabbed that issue from the end of the year and pulled it back into September to try to pretend like that was the issue. It never was. Now, let me say this about the subsidies. It needs a dramatic amount of reform if indeed they're going to be extended. Because as you know, there was no income caps. You have very wealthy people getting subsidized for health care. It was a COVID-era patchwork situation that the Democrats did on their own. And by the way, they voted to put the extension, the expiration date on it at the end of 25. They did that themselves. Why? Because it would have been absurd to try to extend it any further. It has driven the cost of health care up dramatically. There's no Hyde protections in that program. So the point is, that is a very complicated issue. We have 535 members between the House and Senate. This is a deliberative legislative body. It takes a while to find consensus on an issue that complicated. They know that. So they have grabbed onto that. It is a farce. It is a red herring. It is not the issue of today. Today, the issue is to get the government open again so that we don't hurt our economy, hurt our national security, and hurt the American people who depend upon all these services. It's plain and simple. It's as simple as you outlined at the beginning of this interview. And I hope you'll keep bringing these senators back to that simple point.
Well, there needs to be things. The expiration of subsidies is one thing, but the increase we've seen in how much it costs to maintain Obamacare is significant. And Kimberly Strassel, this is a week or two ago, the government mandates and insurance subsidies have created a toxic stew of industry consolidation, inflated payments, opacity about the payments, constrained choices, and the steady erosion of better employer-sponsored plans. It's not as simple as just extending. Here's the other thing that I might ask the Senator, Speaker Johnson. Both sides, we know what happens in this country. Republicans have fervent beliefs about something. Democrats have fervent beliefs and deeply held beliefs about health care. So in this case, they're saying it's different this time. This is so important that we are allowed to close down the government because it's so important to us, because we want people to have health care. Republicans have issues that are just as important to them, and this opens the possibility of getting the other side through blackmail to do what they want by closing down the government. And it's hypocritical in anything that sugarcoats it beyond. I don't see how they can look in the camera with a straight face and say anything other than that.
That is exactly right. And they have voted over and over and over on stopgap funding measures like CRs. In fact, 29 out of 30 times since 2017, Chuck Schumer has voted for CRs. He voted for this exact measure in March of this year, 7 months ago, and gave impassioned speeches about how it was the only thing, the only option, regardless of all of our different preferences and opinions on legislation. Republicans care about health care. We're not just talking about it, we're doing it. In the big, beautiful bill, in the working families tax cut, we reformed Medicaid to make it work better.
But Speaker Johnson, I mean, the president and Republicans have said repeal and replace, and it's like we're in a wilderness. Republicans are in the wilderness on what to do to try to fix our health care.
Actually, we're not. We're not. We've got pages and pages and pages of ideas on how to reform healthcare. You can't rip Obamacare out at the roots. It's too deeply ingrained now, and that's the problem. No one's talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare, but we have to increase access to care, quality to care, and bring down the cost. The Democrats have demonstrated over and over the costs go through the roof when they're in charge. This was their health care plan, right?
Young people don't need Cadillac plans, Mr. Speaker. They don't need, A to Z.
That's right.
They're supporting the entire, this behemoth that's called Obamacare.
Yes.
It's unwieldy and it's dying of its own weight.
Speaker Johnson,
you and I can talk about that for 90 minutes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Speaker Johnson, I'm not a fan of playing politics, of shutting down the government like this, but there are situations where you're being accused of playing politics recently, too. There was a special election that was held for Arizona more than 3 weeks ago now. The Democratic Congresswoman-elect won that special election, Grijalva. She's waiting to be seated, and now Arizona's Attorney General is threatening to sue you for taxation without representation if you don't seat her. I realize Congress is not in session, but it's been more than 3 weeks, and all the representatives in the House are being paid right now. Why can't you seat her?
Well, not all the members of the House are being paid. I think all the Republicans,
well, some of them have chosen not to take a paycheck. They are all under law allowed to receive a paycheck, but they are saying that this is a huge amount of politics. You're using this as leverage by not seating them. And Arizona is saying this is taxation without representation.
Yeah, I'm shocked that there's another Democrat politician from Arizona seeking publicity right now. Now the state AG is involved.
You haven't seated their full delegation.
She's going to sue me, I'm sure. No,
she's not going to sue you. The Attorney General of Arizona is going to sue you for their people not being able to be fully represented.
No, that's who I'm referring to. I know, and she wants publicity too, and it's all a farce. Let me tell you.
Good morning. Bot just went short at 32, so 15 minutes looks like it's pulling back. 3 minutes looks like it's going down. Go is just stupid.
Ironically, are the two Democrat senators from Arizona. If Gallegos and
no PPI today and no CPI.
We'll get this thing done quickly. I'm following right now the Pelosi precedent. When my dear friend and colleague from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, in very similar circumstances, was elected to fill in a special election to fill the seat of her late husband, who passed, died because of COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath. Rep. Grijalva, won an election to take her father's seat in Congress. It's an amazing thing, and we congratulate her for that. And I'm looking forward to administering the oath. But we have to get back to work. The lights have been turned out here. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have shut down the government, and the first order of business is to make sure that American people, federal employees, law enforcement agents, Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic control get their paychecks so we can keep the government functioning, and then we'll get to the ceremonial duty of administering the oath. In the meantime, she can be working for her constituents.
I don't think it's going to dump yet. Maybe it'll open. I don't know.
Her office knocking on the door and pretending it's closed. It shouldn't be. She should be in there taking calls from her constituents and doing her job.
Mr. Speaker, we heard Chuck Schumer, Senator Schumer, say every day that we're closed, it gets better for us. Obviously, not probably a very smart thing to say, but I think he's alluding to polling, and I don't expect polling to help. You've got a lot of media entities that if Republicans shut down the government, you might have the coverage that we're seeing nationwide might be a little bit different. Okay, so we get that. It's always going to be that way. Always going to be that way. There's no way around it.
Oh, do you got check Tickticktrader and spin the wheel?
That bill of goods that this is
I'm gonna spin the wheel real quick.
And do you think it's going to hurt? Should Republicans be rightly concerned about the midterms because you're, I don't know, once again pushing grandma off the cliff in her wheelchair?
No, I'm very bullish about the midterms. I'm absolutely convinced that we're going to grow the House majority here and keep the Senate, of course, and we'll be able to give President Trump 4 years and not just 2. And part of the reason I'm confident about that is I know we're doing the right thing. This is the simple thing. This is the historic thing, by the way. We passed a totally clean stopgap funding measure, a clean CR. There's no Republican priorities or policy writers or anything on that at all. It's 24 pages in length, and every person in the country can see it for themselves. Now, do we have headwinds from the mainstream and legacy media who, parrot the, Chuck Schumer's talking points every day? Of course. But the American people are not stupid, and they understand what's going on here. And the polling that we're seeing is moving the needle rapidly in our direction because they know our message is simple because the truth is simple. And it's very easy for me to go out and debate anybody.
Love you too, bud.
I'm constantly out on the airwaves trying to just relay the simple truth, and it sounds repetitive, but that's what it takes to saturate the message, and people are getting it. And I know, and Chuck Schumer knows, that what he's doing is wrong. And you can roll the tape and play his own speeches. In fact, play the floor speech that he gave in March of this year on the identical scenario, where he said it would be morally wrong and outrageous and selfish to close the government down because it would hurt real Americans. Remember, as you said earlier, Joe, and their counterproposal CR is a joke. It's not just healthcare. They want to add $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. They want to give healthcare paid for by
Ooh,
US
look at
taxpayers to
gold.
illegal
It's going
aliens.
down.
Yes,
Let's
that is in
go.
the bill. Page 57.
Dump this shit.
Look at section 2141. They want to unwind we cut all the fraud, waste, and abuse in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They want to reverse all that. They want to give $500 million to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting again. I mean, all sorts of things. And they want to pull $50 billion from rural hospitals while they're claiming that they care about Americans' health care. It is a joke. They know it. They need to give it up and open the government.
Yeah, it should be made clear that obviously it's against federal law to cover illegals with Medicaid, but the way you can, for example, the way California does it, they do cover 1.4 million illegals using that loophole that allows them they game the system with those provider taxes to jack them up, to get a bigger reimbursement from the feds, which allows that money to go do all this other stuff, which allows state money to get freed up to cover illegal.
No, I don't long. I like shorting.
It's not just young or old or anything.
Because everything's all-time high.
That's factual. You're saying it, but people hear you say that and they don't believe you because Hakeem Jeffries.
They need to go read it themselves.
But they can immediately point to that federal funds can. So they will stick to that. Federal funds are not being used, but federal funds go out there to California. You can use the federal funds for this and then take the money you were going to save from that to pay for the illegal aliens. And that's what's going on. We know, but you got to look at it closely to figure that out. What's the end game?
Well,
at this point, how are we going to once we get no kings out of the way, Chuck will feel okay about negotiating?
Let's pray that that's true. Just to put a bow on what you just said, we closed those loopholes in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And Section 2141 of their counterproposal says they want to repeal that. Okay, so how does this end? I do think it has a lot to do with the Hate America rally that'll be on the mall on Saturday. You're going to have all the Antifa and BLM and pro-Hamas. Watch who assembles there. All the Marxists will be on the mall. They can't open the government, apparently, until that rally is over because they can't face the angry mob. So as soon as that's done...
as soon as that's over, you think that there is an impetus or a way to kind of break this by next week?
I think you've got we just need 5 Democrats in the Senate to join and do the right thing with the majority of the Senate that's already there to reopen the government. And then we will have all these debates. And I can't wait.
There you go. Go is dropping. NQ's dropping.
That's the way the system works. It's the way the process works. We were always going to do that. This is a game. They're trying to play a game because they had to draw a line in the sand to show a fight against President Trump and Republicans so they can protect their own careers. Chuck Schumer's worried he's going to get a challenge from a Marxist in New York. You might have noticed Marxism is all the rage in New York now. We're going to have probably a Marxist mayor, I think. Looks like he's going to win. Chuck Schumer thinks AOC, or one of Mamdani's disciples, is going to run against him and he's going to lose his Senate seat. He's been in Congress for 44 years. He came here when I was 9 years old in the 3rd grade. He doesn't want to go home and do anything else. And so that's what this is about. It is a selfish political game so that they can get cover. And I wish it weren't true, and it gives me no pleasure to tell you that. But everybody can see through this, and they know exactly what's going on.
Speaker Johnson, thanks for your time this morning.
That's a nice day.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay.
When we come back, banks versus private credit. There's drama brewing between the two, and we'll get you caught up on that story. And later this hour, more on the government shutdown with Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Right now, though, as we head to a break, check out the rare earth stocks. U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer just saying in an interview that the government could take more stakes in U.S. rare earth companies. That echoes what Treasury Secretary Bessent told CNBC yesterday. You can see critical metals, that stock's up by 15% on this news. Squawk Box will be right back.
In a world of conformity, it's often the innovative that stand out. At FlexJet, we've built a state-of-the-art operations control center with an international fleet of private jets and helicopters. Our Red Label crews are leading the way in pilot compensation, all supported by one of the world's largest maintenance networks. This is our timeless dedication to you. That's why we're outgrowing the competition 2-1. At FlexJet, you won't just be flown, you'll be moved.
When cyber threats target the world's data, seconds matter. That's why the world's most
gold came back up.
depend on ReliaQuest Gray Matter. to contain threats in seconds. It's the only technology-independent AI-driven platform built by security operators for security operators. ReliaQuest. Make security possible.
Order canceled.
When you're actively trading, the fees
Order
really
submitted.
start to add up. Public is the only platform that offers rebates on your option trades, which help offset those costs. It's a simple way to help me keep more of what I earn.
The world is shifting, and the future of energy is being rewritten. At EnergyX, we've developed breakthrough technology that extracts lithium faster, cleaner, and more cost-efficiently than ever before. Backed by leaders like General Motors and POSCO, we're building a global lithium supply chain to power everything from electric vehicles to data centers and artificial intelligence. Join us on the journey. Visit us at investinlithium.com.
Another hole? It's all gonna come together. I'm your man.
Asking the right question can greatly impact your future.
Are you really a licensed electrician?
Trust me. Not again.
Especially when it comes to your finances.
Do you have a question?
Are you a certified financial planner?
Yes, I'm a CFP professional.
CFP professionals are committed to acting in your best interest. That's
Or-
why it's
order
gotta
submitted.
be a
Order
CFP.
filled. Order
Find your
filled.
The
CFP
heck was
professional at
that?
letsmakeaplan.org.
Order canceled.
What the hell?
Order filled.
Was that data? Holy crap.
Order submitted.
Start streaming. Go to cnbc.com/plus now.
Order submitted.
I don't know what's going on.
All right, we're just a few seconds away from some new manufacturing data from the Philadelphia Fed.
Order
the futures
submitted.
ahead of that are higher this morning. Dow futures up by 100, but off the highs of the session. Let's get over to Rick Santelli. He's standing by at the CME in Chicago. Rick?
Yes. You know, one of the few numbers that are being released, of course, this comes from the Federal Reserve System, so it's still operating. Philly Fed Business Outlook. This is an October number, so it's pretty fresh. We're expecting a number right around 10. Comes in on the light side, minus 12.8. Minus 12.8 would be the weakest going back to April when we were down near minus 20. It hasn't been a good run. Every month this year, of course, has been negative. So we know that the business outlook in Philly and many other regions, especially on manufacturing, has been on the soft side. Everybody knows that we were supposed to get a litany of numbers yesterday and today. And I thought very quickly I would go back and at least refresh our memory on where we have been and what we have missed. You know, our last look on CPI was definitely a bit on the warm side. Up 0.4 on headline, up 0.3 ex food and energy.
And
up
gold is
2.9
pumping back
year
up.
over year, up
Order
3.1
filled.
when you went year over year on core. It was a different story for our last look on PPI for August. They were minus numbers on the month over month. Minus 1/10 on final demand, minus 1/10 on minus food and energy, and finally it was up 0.3 when it was on minus food, energy, and trade. The year-over-year numbers had moderated quite nicely. 2.6 on final
Order
demand,
filled.
2.8 on both ex food and energy, and
Order
ex food,
submitted.
energy, and trade. So my point is we had a warmer CPI, we saw a cooling PPI, so there's still questions on the lingering presence in terms of inflation. Retail sales was supposed to be out as well, and that has been running strong. The last 3 months we had on retail sales were August up 0.6, July up 0.6, and June was up 1%. If you looked at core retail sales, the last 3 months reverse order, we're up 0.7, up 0.5, up 0.9. So we had solid retail sales. Obviously, we're trying to put different pieces together. Steve Leisman and many economists throughout the country and analysts have been trying to piece together from a variety of sources. But at the end of the day,
Order
it really
filled.
is tough, and it's going to be even tougher for the Federal Reserve. We all heard Chairman Powell talk recently, and his comment was that, you know, the risks are tough here. Inflation definitely is sticky, but maybe the labor market slowdown is more important to deal with. And in that endeavor, we were supposed to get initial and continuing claims, and I have to say, I know we have seen some deterioration in JOLTS and some other macro data, But if all you were looking at was initial jobless claims, it was very difficult of late to pick out any problems within that data series. Back to you.
All right, Rick, stay with us. We're going to expand this conversation. For more, we want to bring in CNBC's senior economics reporter, Steve Leisman, and John Riding, the chief economic advisor at Breen Capital. Steve, you go first. What do you see in the numbers besides what Rick just
I mean, this is now the most important Philly Fed
Order
index
submitted.
ever issued, right? Because it's all we got. And I do
Order
want to say a
filled.
little bit more detail here. The prices paid index
Order
did
canceled.
go up 49.2 versus 46.8, but
Order submitted.
the outlook is actually a little bit better. We the 6-month business outlook, 6-month capital expenditures outlook, both improved and at pretty decent numbers.
Dang,
So
gold
you don't
came
know
back
because
up.
things are so bad, people think they have to get better, or people legitimately think things will get better. We're going to want to just follow
Go
that
NQ.
because it's a pretty good outlook. Whereas the current assessment of the current situation, which is the data Rick correctly gave us, I do want to do one thing, which Troy Ludka from SMBC. Nico, who works with Joe Livornia before he went to Treasury, did a clever thing. It's clever because I thought of it a long time ago and never could do it, but he did it. What he did is he took all of these Fed surveys that we talk about, and he took the 5 that have employment and price indices, and he put them all together, and hopefully we have that chart, which shows us what's going on with employment and prices at each of these different surveys. And now zero in, folks, if you could, on the right side. What does it tell you? Prices are higher, employment is flat. So this
Order
really confirms.
filled.
This is September data.
It goes all the way back to
Order
2000.
submitted.
You have to do that because you want to see how it tracks, right? You want to see how the two work together. And overall, I'm not showing you these graphs. The blue line tracks inflation very well. The orange line employment, it's so volatile. Directionally, it goes in the right direction when you total the 5 of them up, but it doesn't work on a month-to-month basis quite so
Order
well.
filled.
You can see employment's flat from these 5 surveys, and that prices are generally elevated, though not as elevated as they were during the pandemic. It's as good a contemporary, what do you want to say, aggregation of these surveys that's out there. They're out there talking to businesses, getting responses from the 5 different Fed banks
Order
that do this,
filled.
and it's a proxy. It's another proxy, and I think it's a proxy that the Fed is looking at and is helping inform their decisions now.
Okay, John Riding, I want to ask you about that gap between the orange line and the blue line that we
Order
were just
submitted.
saying. That kind of matches up with what Jay Powell has
Order
said recently.
submitted.
That basically the balance of concern is probably falling to the jobs, to the employment side of the mandate at this point, less so on prices. Is that what you think is the case, and is that what maybe Fed Chairman Powell is looking at?
Order
It's
submitted.
not what I think is the case, actually. I mean, Chair Powell has said, you know, we're in a difficult situation where the price stability mandate and the employment mandate
that gold
are
pump
at
was
odds with each
insane.
other. And the Fed has said, without specifying any details in the past, the leg of the mandate that is further away from our objective is the one we will focus on. So inflation is close to 3%. These indicators, both from the New York Fed and what you're reading here, aren't showing very encouraging signs that we're going to be trending back to the 2% inflation target. And in the economy, the unemployment rate is 0.1 of a point above what the Fed thinks is full employment. So this whole idea that the balance of risks has switched to the labor market, the argument to me is very contorted. And the Fed, you know, these surveys are good, but to be honest, we kind of ignored them when we had real data. So they haven't gotten any better. It's not like you know, they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. This is a case of the one-eyed man with the cataracts is king. It really doesn't track very well.
I want to emphasize what John is saying. You had Bowman the other day saying
Order filled.
we're headed back to 2%. You've had Myron saying there is no inflation from tariffs. It's a bit of kind of wishful thinking out
Order
there.
submitted.
It's very wishful thinking. We have to think back. You know, back in 2021, when the Fed was maybe more of a coherent entity, they went through the whole inflation is transitory routine, which turned out simply not to be true. So, you know, we're in a situation where we seem to be headed headlong. Market surprised, and last time I looked, 98% chance of a rate cut on October 29th. headlong into easing policy while inflation is headed in the wrong direction. The Fed tells us inflation expectations are anchored, but the University of Michigan survey, another indicator that we get, it says the 5-year expected inflation rate's 3.7%, which is nearly double the Fed's official target. So I do not get why the focus, well, I mean, I kind of do, but we probably won't talk about that, why the focus is on cutting rates to address labor market weakness, which, by the way, is what the Fed did for 100 basis points between September and December of last year. They took out insurance at that time for potential weakening in the labor market.
Order submitted.
Don't worry about your blood pressure.
Is what?
Don't measure it.
Don't measure it. But
Order
unfortunately,
submitted.
It's a silent killer, and so is inflation. And you don't want it. But here's the one thing. Am I wrong?
Wow, gold. That gold movement is wild.
Order filled.
Firings and hirings, and we're at this static
Order filled.
level.
Order filled.
Holy shit, I just took off a lot of... That short on gold was nice.
Let me make that more technical than what you're saying.
The weaker job market will bring inflation with housing, with the housing shelter costs coming down. We'll get to 2.
This is Waller's idea. This is Myron's idea that there is not a route for inflation to create, for the job market to create the inflation.
Ooh, that was nice. You got the drop on gold? Holy cow. I like that.
Labor market phenomenon. Inflation is a monetary phenomenon. And that was something that Milton Friedman made clear back in his 1968 American Economic Association. And Joe, to your point on the labor market, yes, hiring is moribund. And firing is very low. But we're seeing studies come out that say one of the things that's holding down hiring is AI, and it's substituting for those entry-level jobs. It's not a shortage of demand. So what do interest rate cuts do? They lower the cost of capital and increase the incentive to invest.
But couldn't AI be deflationary, the biggest deflationary force we've ever seen?
Order filled.
Inflationary. After all of it. But look, it's not fair, because my friend Rick Santelli has been steadfast on this issue that the Fed is ignoring inflation, and I think he gets the last word, Rick.
You should move
we have to go to break, but
if you want to get in all the time, you need to move to New York.
Rick has been steadfast on this.
We got a great new mayor coming.
He's been hard money the whole time.
That's right. And listen, I remember John Riding when he was at Bear Stearns. He's also a hard money guy. He's been spouting good economics for decades. And I agree with him on pretty much every score there.
Order submitted.
Inflation is being ignored. The labor market signals are questionable in terms of the extent of the weakness. So my final question is, why are they going to ease 2 times? And why is the market happy with that? That part's easy. Market's always happy with lower rates. But in the end, I don't see a catalyst for doing it. John Riding, you get an A+.
I love this. A panel that agrees across
hard money breakfast. That's what we're going to call it.
Right. Rick, John, Steve, thank you guys all.
You can cut when the new goalpost is 3. Can't you? John? You can cut it.
The goalpost isn't.
Yeah, it is. Why? It has to be, because we're at 3 and they're cutting. De facto.
So we have the one-eyed man in the land of the blind moving the goalpost. That's monetary policy. Is that what you're saying?
It's a walk in the cake. All right, coming up, banks against private credit. Leslie Picker is going to join us on the fight that's emerging between the two. Squawk Box will be right back.
Goldman Sachs active
Order
ETFs.
canceled.
Designed to deliver
Order
outcomes
submitted.
driven by more than 150 years of rigor. Not just active,
Order submitted.
relentless.
He sure knows these parts well.
Folks say the planes whisper to him.
Outlaws in 500 feet. Rerouting.
Making a left! Innovation changes everything.
Man, he's good.
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Okay, here is your paperwork if you want to review it and make sure everything's in order.
These factory floor mats, really as good as WeatherTech.
You know, laser measure.
Order Order filled.
Nothing comes even close to laser-measured WeatherTech floor liners. They offer the ultimate protection front, back, and even up the sides. For a full line of premium American-made products, order at WT.com. Nothing protects like WeatherTech.
Big day, everybody. That's the spirit. We're having lots of fun.
What's going on?
Oh, the Homes.com network just hit 100 million visitors.
Yeah, we get that every month.
Party every month, everybody! I don't know how to change the song on this. Homes.com, the place.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do.
Order
Sponsored
canceled.
jobs on Indeed are 2.5 times faster to first hire. Visit
Order submitted.
Indeed.com/hire.
Next on the red carpet, we have Gina Costa, looking simply stunning with this season's hottest accessory. Oh, what's this? She's opening her Fidelity app to buy that stock for exactly the amount she wants. No fees or commissions. What will Gina do next?
Gina has roller derby at 6 p.m.
I'm there.
Get started investing for as little as $1. Talk about easier investing.
Order filled. Order submitted.
Earlier this hour, we talked with House Speaker Mike Johnson about the government shutdown. Joining us
Yeah,
right
that
now
gold
from
pump
the
is
other
crazy.
side of the aisle and the other side of the Capitol, Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly. Good morning to you. We just spoke with the House Speaker. He thinks you need to come to the table. That's basically the message. I imagine you think he needs to come to the table.
We've been asking for a negotiation with Mike and Republicans for weeks now. We've been talking about it for months since they passed the president's priority legislation that gave the big tax cut to the wealthiest Americans. So we're here. I've been here for weeks since the shutdown started. He gave the House of Representatives a lot of time off. They haven't been in session for weeks. That has impacts. He needs to sit down with us and discuss this to come up with a real solution that works for people. Mike Johnson said he could predict what I was going to say, and he's right. I want to talk about the people that this impacts. He didn't mention that. You know, he talked about some Washington BS that nobody really understands.
So in terms of, I mean, look, this has become, a massive game of finger pointing, and there's a game of chicken going on here, basically. Who's going to come to the table first? What can be on offer? This judge, obviously, in San Francisco has said that the Trump administration can't, fire people en masse. Does that make you think that you are now in a better position than you were 24 hours ago?
I don't think this is about who is in a better or worse position.
Order filled.
This is about
Order
people,
submitted.
many of them my constituents, but they're all over the country. People like a woman I talked to last week, Emily, whose husband's a pastor. She doesn't get health care through his work. She's got 3 kids. She says the Affordable Care Act, including these subsidies, is what makes her finances work. She's had a complicated pregnancy in the past. Without this, they go bankrupt. I talked to another woman.
Oh,
who's
sure. I do gotta
63
go.
years old who
Get ready
had
for my meeting, so
a head
I'll end the
injury
stream.
with a
Later, guys.
$10,000
Good luck.
bill, but because of the ACA, it was